Oh, surely it's going to rain sometime. It has never not rained in all the history, isn't there? It always rains at the end of the drought, if you can hang on long enough.
Well, scientists aren't arguing that it doesn't change. It's the rate of change that's the issue. And the climate is changing at such a rate that no thing will get a chance to adapt. I mean, the short answer is how do we get more carbon back into our landscape? I mean, if you wanted to do one thing to mitigate droughts, would be to increase your carbon level.
I come from a cattle station in central Queensland, where I learnt from a very young age the complex relationship that we have with nature. We are undoubtedly in a period of change where merely just protecting the environment will no longer sustain our existence. We have to find new ways to regenerate our world and each other. This is part of my journey. On my travels out to far western New South Wales, I was lucky enough to meet Derek and Kiralee Blomfield from Colorado Station, and they were implementing some new practices on their property. I was keen to find out more.
We've just found over the last maybe 6 years that the way that our rainfall is coming is really not as predictable. Just
sporadic.
Yeah, so much more sporadic. But, you know, we might get big falls of rain, then we get really long dry periods, and it's made management really challenging. So we have things in our holistic goal, like that we want to, you know, when we have runoff from our farm, that the water's clear running. We have great biodiversity on the farm.
Let's have a look at this creek that you rehabilitated.
Yeah, so it's actually a gully which is, you know, just an intermittent running thing, and so it's water that runs through our place and has carved just a massive gully through this black soil. Yeah. This is actually exactly the same spot. You can see the same tree in these images. Perennial grasses. It doesn't look like this now because it's drier. All we did was we used the animals to heal this area.
Mate, this is absolutely spectacular in terms of rehabilitation, and the batter's all, you know, exactly the way they need to be. There's a flat base here, long base, so the water spreads out. There's not too much erosion, fast running water. How did you get it to this stage?
Yeah, Khory, good question. We put a fence around the outside of it and we put the animals in it. So it was counterintuitive and counter to what we'd been told and taught.
Yeah, so a lot of people tell you to actually fence your cattle out of the creeks, right? And so you fence them in.
We fence them in and we put them in really high numbers, high density for short periods, and just let them just smash it. Well, as you say, they're trampling it, they're leaving a footprint in there. The wetter it is, the more they do. That creates a little dam for the water, slows that runoff, so it infiltrates. You have a little, I mean, tiny, but it's a grass plant. Another one, another one, another one. And they hold it, and they're the glue. The thing on their roots is the glue.
So Derek and Kiralee are implementing a farming practice that's referred to as regenerative agriculture, which is based on 4 principles which can be applied anywhere in the world. The first principle is about maximising the solar plant cycle, which increases the photosynthesis process and converts the carbon dioxide that's in the atmosphere into carbon in the plants and the soils. By increasing your carbon cycle, you also increase the water cycle, which is the second principle. That also holds more water in your soils and your plants, which leads to drought resilience. Now, the third one is about increasing the nutrient cycling. So ultimately, you want to reduce the amount of inputs that you have into your farming systems, such as chemicals and fertilizers, which simultaneously increases your outputs, such as the agricultural products like wool and food. Now, the fourth one is about plant diversity, ensuring that you have a number of different plant species in your ecosystem, which in turn increases the other three principles. All four of these principles together aim to restore ecosystems to full health and work with nature rather than against it.
People learning new things, researching new practices, what's out there, what can we do? Because there are a whole number of things that people can be doing differently that we're not across our industry, agriculture, that if we, just one little thing, one little change leads to another, and that leads to resilience for the people on the land and the land itself.
Derek talks about a mindset change, which leads to the fifth principle of regenerative agriculture. Our culture has been primarily about domination, and we have applied that to some extent to our interaction with nature. What if we change the way that we perceive nature? Is this the missing link for regeneration?
I'm a big believer that agriculture, if we're going to be successful in mitigating climate change, agriculture is going to have to reinvent itself. The issue is that it's the legacy load, it's the carbon that's already out there that is the problem. So we have to remove that carbon from the atmosphere, and as we've discussed, that agriculture is one of the biggest emitters, but it's also the only industry that's got the capacity to draw that carbon back down, and we have to develop farming techniques that can do that.
It's clear that we have to start reimagining and recreating everything that we make and do. But can we do that using our existing systems? What if regenerative agriculture can be part of the solution? Some of the changes that we're now seeing are inevitable, and we can't control that. But what we can control is what we do from here.